Have you ever walked into a room and felt your energy drop the moment someone looked your way? It's not always easy to explain. They haven't said anything cruel. They're smiling, maybe even charming. But something feels off. Sometimes, evil doesn't scream. It whispers. It doesn't arrive wearing horns and a cape. It blends in, quiet, calculated, and disarmingly polite. And the damage it leaves behind? Subtle yet devastating. You see, evil isn't just a story in books or a villain in movies. It lives among us, and often it disguises itself behind charisma, kindness, or concern. But here's the truth the Stoics knew well. Appearances deceive, but nature reveals itself in actions. Today we're going to reveal what ancient philosophers like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus understood long ago. That the evil person next to you doesn't always shout. They manipulate, they distort. And worst of all, they feed off your kindness to gain control. But you're not powerless. In this video, we'll uncover 10 unmistakable signs that you're in the presence of a truly dangerous individual. And with each sign, you'll gain the wisdom to protect your peace and walk away stronger. So let's begin. Sign number 1. Constant. Manipulation. Seneca once wrote, "He who has many fears also has many things to manipulate." It's not just a poetic line. It's a clear warning. Because the most dangerous manipulators aren't loud or aggressive. They're strategic, patient, and persuasive. I once worked with a colleague who at first seemed like a friend. He praised me in public, always the first to compliment my ideas, uplift me in meetings, make me feel like a rising star. But behind the scenes, something darker was unfolding. He began twisting stories. Small mistakes I made were quietly exaggerated in private conversations with upper management. He subtly painted a narrative that I was inconsistent, unreliable, even though none of that was true. One day I confronted him, calmly, respectfully. And you know what he said? He smiled, shrugged, and replied, "I'm just trying to help you improve." At that moment I froze. Was he right? Was I being too sensitive? I started doubting myself, wondering if maybe I did need his guidance. That's the trap. Manipulators don't just confuse you. They erode your confidence little by little until you begin to question your own judgment. They don't want partnership. They want control. And the way they get it is by preying on your need for validation, belonging, or growth. They'll make you believe that only they understand you, that only they can fix you. But Stoicism teaches the opposite. A truly virtuous person will guide you to independence, not dependency. If someone is constantly pressuring you to follow their lead, always questioning your choices, and subtly undermining your autonomy, it's not mentorship, it's manipulation. Epictetus reminds us, no man is free who is not master of himself. And the moment you stop playing their game, the moment you choose clarity over confusion, stillness over drama, you begin to reclaim your power. You don't need to argue. You don't need to prove your worth. You just need to see clearly and walk away. And here's what makes it even more dangerous. Manipulation doesn't always come with threats or control. Sometimes it arrives wrapped in a smile. Which leads us to the next red flag. Sign number 2. A mask of charm. At first glance, they seem like a dream. Confident, magnetic, kind. They say all the right things at all the right times, but behind the polished charm, there's often something else, entirely. You might begin to realize that the person who made you feel seen and valued was not truly offering connection, but performing a carefully rehearsed act. Charm, when it's sincere, is a beautiful thing. It builds bridges between people. It fosters trust. It opens the door to real, meaningful relationships. But in the hands of someone with dark intentions, charm becomes a weapon, not a gift. These individuals know exactly how to capture your attention, how to win your heart and silence your doubts. They use well-chosen words like bait, wrapping their true motives in praise and promises. To you, they may appear as the friend you've always needed, the mentor you've been looking for, or the partner you thought you could build a future with. But if you really pause, you might notice something feels empty. Their charm is like a polished shell, glossy and dazzling on the outside, but hollow within. Beneath the flattery lies a truth they don't want you to see: self-interest, deception, and manipulation. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." And when someone's mind is driven by selfishness and deceit, no amount of sweetness can hide it for long. So how do you see through it? Watch them. Not just when they're charming you, but when they're not getting what they want. How do they treat people who have nothing to offer them? How do they speak to the waiter, the assistant, the stranger? Because while words can be rehearsed, actions, especially the ones taken when no one's watching, reveal a person's true character. I remember a friend who had a rare gift. He made everyone feel special. Compliments poured from his mouth like poetry. He had a way of looking at you that made you feel like you mattered. But over time, I began to notice a pattern. His praise wasn't spontaneous. It was strategic. It always came with timing, with a goal. He'd flatter those who had influence, make them feel important, then slowly extract favors, support, or sympathy. And when they no longer served his purpose, he disappeared. Worse, he'd gossip about those very same people, mocking the ones he once called inspiring. That's when I realized his charm wasn't connection, it was camouflage. So how do you escape the spell? First, don't ignore your gut. If something feels too good to be true, too perfectly curated, there's probably a reason. Charm that makes you feel confused or uneasy isn't connection, it's a warning. Second, watch for the gap between their words and their actions. Stoic philosophy teaches us that truth never needs a mask. Genuine kindness shines through naturally. It doesn't need to be polished, exaggerated, or sold. If you find yourself questioning someone's intentions despite their kindness, trust that instinct. Because when you strip away the glamour, what remains tells the real story. And true goodness, it never needs a disguise. Sign number 3, lies without conscience. Some people lie not to protect, but to dominate. And for them, truth isn't sacred. It's a tool, or worse, an obstacle. Let's take a closer look. When someone lies without conscience, their goal isn't just to hide the truth, it's to rewrite reality, to make you question your memory, your logic, your own eyes and ears. And once that happens, they can step in as the voice of reason and take control. Master manipulators don't shout. They don't slam doors or throw tantrums. No, what they do is far more dangerous. They make you question your own perception. Was it really that bad? Did I imagine it? Maybe I overreacted? Sound familiar? This is exactly how manipulation functions when it's rooted in lies without conscience. Such individuals are skilled at exploiting uncertainty. They chip away at your clarity until confusion becomes the default, and then they step in gently to guide you with their version of events. But here's the sinister part. Their lies aren't random. They're constructed, layer by layer, with purpose and precision. And because each lie needs another to support it, they end up living in a fragile tower of deception. Eventually, even the best liars stumble. Because while truth stands effortlessly, lies require constant upkeep, and that's their Achilles heel. So how can you protect yourself from being caught in their web? Start by watching closely. Do their stories shift slightly each time you ask? Do their explanations crumble when pressure is applied? Do their actions contradict the narrative they've created? Stoic philosophy urges us to observe actions over words, because while words can be manipulated, Actions reflect what a person truly believes. So if your gut tells you something is off, listen to it. Trust your observations. Trust the inconsistencies. And most importantly, ask questions. Don't shy away from seeking clarity. Demand transparency. And when you don't get it, don't excuse it. Because honesty isn't just about truth-telling. It's about integrity, the kind that can be seen and felt. And when you find that someone continues to lie without guilt, remorse, or correction, walk away. Walk away without guilt, without apology, and with full awareness that real strength, as the Stoics teach, lies in mastering ourselves, not in fixing others who refuse to honor the truth. Don't let their deceit poison your peace. Hold your ground. Guard your clarity. And remember, lies fade fast in the face of steady observation. Sign number 4, lack of empathy. Right after deception, what follows often feels even colder. A chilling absence of empathy. Seneca once reflected that human beings are social creatures, not meant to live for themselves alone. And at the heart of every meaningful bond lies empathy, the ability to step into someone else's world, even just for a moment, and feel with them. But to the malicious, empathy is useless, unless it serves their agenda. To them, your happiness or pain only matters if it brings them benefit. And when it doesn't, you're met with distance, deflection, or even disdain. Let me paint a picture. Imagine this. You're sitting across from a friend, finally opening up about something deeply personal. Maybe you're grieving, maybe you're overwhelmed. You take a breath and speak from the heart, but instead of listening, they cut you off. Oh, you think that's bad? Let me tell you about my day. Your vulnerability is dismissed, your pain minimized. You feel small, silenced, invisible. This isn't just rudeness. It's a pattern, a sign of someone who either won't or can't connect with another person's emotional reality, and sometimes it's worse. Their detachment is so strong you begin to wonder, do they feel anything at all? In some cases, these individuals may even seem to delight quietly in your misfortunes, that flicker of satisfaction when you fail, that subtle smirk when things go wrong for you. It's not your imagination, because without empathy, relationships become transactions. Give and take turns into take only. And eventually you're left emotionally drained, wondering how you ever thought this was friendship. Now, can they fake empathy? Of course, they may mimic concern when it's convenient, when there's an audience, or when sympathy gains them leverage. But the mask always slips. As Marcus Aurelius wisely put it, stop arguing about what a good man should be, and be one. When someone's goodness only shows up when it's useful, it's not goodness. It's performance. So what can you do when faced with a cold, indifferent soul? Set firm boundaries. Protect your emotional energy. And don't allow their lack of care to distort your sense of worth. Seek relationships built on mutual respect, understanding, and compassion. Surround yourself with those who celebrate your highs and hold space for your lows. People who make you feel safe, not strategic. Because real connection, it doesn't exploit your heart. It honors it. And just when you think it couldn't get colder than their lack of empathy, they reveal something even more controlling. Their obsession with power over your mind. Sign number 5. The hunger for control. For a truly malicious person, control is more than a preference. It's their lifeline, their oxygen. They don't just want to influence you, they want to own every part of your experience, from your relationships, your decisions, even your thoughts. They crave dominance over it all. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And that's precisely the kind of strength these individuals seek to strip away, because they know If they can control your mind, they don't need to chain your body. They've already won. I once knew someone who, at first, appeared genuinely supportive. They offered advice that seemed thoughtful, well-intentioned, even wise. But over time, the truth began to seep through in subtle cracks. Their compliments started to feel conditional. Their encouragement came wrapped in small, undermining remarks. "Are you sure you can handle that? You tend to overthink things. You should probably let me guide you through this." I remember one particular moment. An important opportunity was on the table, a project I was excited about. But instead of cheering me on, they gently but firmly steered me away. They told me it was too much for me, that I wasn't quite ready, that they'd step in and take the lead for both our sakes, and I believed them. I stepped back, not because I lacked ability, but because they made me doubt that I had it at all. That's how control begins, not with orders but with suggestions that weaken your sense of self. They slowly chip away at your confidence until you feel like you need their approval to act. But here's the truth. They're not helping you grow. They're keeping you small, so they never have to feel threatened, because someone who thrives on control can't handle your independence. They need you to second-guess, to hesitate, to lean on them forever. These people use guilt, shame, and flattery like a twisted symphony. At times they sound like your biggest cheerleader, other times like a disappointed parent, and just when you think they're backing off, they tighten their grip. Before long, you don't just question your decisions, you start questioning yourself. But, as Epictetus reminds us, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. And that freedom begins when you refuse to let someone else define your reality. So what can you do? Start by asking a simple but powerful question. Does this align with my values? Use that as your compass. If someone constantly tries to guide your choices, not with support, but with control, you owe it to yourself to step away, because real connection never traps. It uplifts. And real support never demands submission, it encourages growth. Marcus Aurelius also said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." So guard your thoughts fiercely, they are yours, and no one has the right to own them. Protect your inner world. It is the origin of all your freedom. Those who truly care for you will never seek to control you. Instead, they'll cheer for your independence and walk beside you, not above you. So stand tall, hold your ground, and let your mind lead you to the freedom you've always deserved. Sign Thapa 6, Blame Games and Deflection. Now, what happens when these individuals are held accountable? They don't reflect, they redirect. Seneca wisely observed, "People often prefer trust over judgment," and that's exactly what manipulators exploit. They know that many of us are quick to give the benefit of the doubt. So they weaponize that trust, turning every confrontation into a clever game of blame and evasion. Instead of owning their actions, they spin stories that paint them as the victim, stories that cast you or others as the villain. They avoid responsibility not by arguing facts, but by shifting the emotional focus. And the worst part? They do it so smoothly, so convincingly, that you begin to question your own perception. Again. I once worked closely on a major project with someone I considered a trusted friend. It was a big undertaking, with a tight deadline and high stakes. But as obstacles arose and decisions were made, things went sideways. Instead of owning any part of the problem, my friend began distancing themselves from the outcomes. In meetings, they subtly suggested that I had made key mistakes, that I misunderstood instructions, that I had miscommunicated with the team. I was stunned, not because I thought I was perfect, but because we had made those decisions together. And suddenly, it was all on me. That's when I realized they weren't avoiding accountability out of fear. They were doing it strategically to preserve their image and shift the fallout. This is what blame shifters do. They keep themselves clean while others pay the price. But Stoicism teaches us something powerful. The truth stands firm without justification. Lies, on the other hand, they require elaborate scaffolding to stay upright. So the next time someone consistently avoids accountability, notice the pattern. Do they accept fault only when cornered? Do they always seem to have a reason why it wasn't their responsibility? If the answer is yes, set boundaries. Because trust without accountability isn't noble. It's dangerous. And when you confront them with the truth, they don't take responsibility. They twist it into helpful advice or constructive criticism, but deep down, it's another form of control. When things started to unravel, instead of acknowledging her mistakes, she turned her attention, sharply but subtly, toward me. Her words weren't loud, they weren't aggressive. In fact, they came laced with what sounded like calm professionalism. She criticized my organizational style, my timelines, my workflow. Not in a way that screamed blame, but in a way that made me question, wait, am I really the problem here? That's what made it so difficult. She spoke with a tone that sounded supportive, as if she was trying to help me improve. But behind the facade of feedback was a deeper tactic: displacement. After multiple instances of this same pattern, mistakes she made that somehow ended up on my plate. Subtle redirections in conversations. Moments where she avoided clarity just enough to confuse the issue. I realized something. I wasn't being helped. I was being scapegoated. You see, individuals like this excel at crafting narratives. They bend reality to their favor, not by shouting, but by gently reshaping how others perceive the situation. They rely on your empathy, your trust, and especially your willingness to give people the benefit of the doubt. Suddenly, you're the villain, and they, the misunderstood hero. Every time. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the truth stands on its own. It needs no decoration, no justification, and it certainly doesn't need to guilt others into silence. When you face individuals like this, one of the most powerful things you can do is stay anchored in facts. Let emotions settle. Ask clear questions. When falsehoods are being spread, don't shrink away. Calmly but firmly request clarity. Ask for specific timelines. Revisit decisions together. Expose contradictions not with anger, but with poise. This not only helps you avoid their emotional traps, it reminds everyone involved that you are rooted in integrity, not confusion. To deal with people like this, boundaries aren't just helpful. They are essential. Set clear lines. Do not engage in circular arguments or emotionally charged corrections that only serve to wear you down. Refuse to play their game, because that's exactly what it is, a game of misdirection. And once you step off the board, the game ends. At the heart of Stoic wisdom is this: self-command. And you maintain that by standing in truth, even when others try to twist it. Character isn't proven in easy moments, it's shown in the face of deception. If someone consistently evades responsibility, watch their actions closely. Over time, their true nature reveals itself. Your peace isn't worth sacrificing just to keep the harmony on the outside. Protect it. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. Sign number 7, the pleasure of pain. But not all manipulation ends with misdirection. Sometimes it takes a darker turn, one that chills you, not because of what's said, but because of what's felt. One of the most unsettling traits of a truly malicious person is the quiet pleasure they find in the suffering of others. Epictetus once offered a beautiful reminder: associate with those who make you better. But these individuals aren't interested in bettering you. They're not here to build, encourage, or support. Their interest lies in degradation, in bringing others down, and watching the fallout with silent satisfaction. They feed not on growth, but on pain. At first, this behavior can be subtle. A sarcastic laugh when someone stumbles, a mocking comment wrapped in humor, a barely concealed smirk when someone else is corrected, rejected, or fails. You may even hear them telling stories, reliving someone else's misfortune with a strange enthusiasm, as if it were entertainment. And you wonder, why does this bring them so much joy? That's your cue to pause, because these moments aren't isolated. They're part of a pattern of someone who doesn't rise by climbing in but by pushing others down. They don't earn recognition through merit or effort. They take shortcuts by standing on the shoulders of those they quietly sabotage. Once had a friend like that. Every time someone around us failed, they were the first to bring it up. But it wasn't concern, it was excitement. There was always a strange glimmer in their eyes when recounting someone else's fall, like they relished being the messenger of bad news, like they needed others to lose, so they could feel like they were winning. That's not normal. That's not healthy. And that's not who you want in your life, because people who seek power through pain are the same people who will smile when you stumble and offer no hand to help you rise. So what do? You don't try to change them. You walk away. Distance is the boundary you draw when kindness is exploited. When your pain becomes someone else's pleasure, it's time to protect your spirit. Because true companionship lifts you. It doesn't compete with you. It doesn't envy your joy or revel in your struggle. As the Stoics remind us, the company you keep shapes the strength of your soul. So choose wisely, and sometimes that dark joy becomes visible. Not in grand gestures, but in a single smirk. A laugh. A look that lingers a second too long when someone else falls. One day I saw it with my own eyes. A coworker had made a mistake, something that led to a public reprimand right there in the office. While everyone else shifted uncomfortably, a certain colleague of mine chuckled. Not loudly, not cruelly, but enough to feel out of place, offensive even. At first, I thought she was just being indifferent. Maybe it was her way of coping with awkward situations, but over time it became painfully clear. That chuckle wasn't about discomfort. It was satisfaction. She didn't just ignore others' struggles, she thrived on them. Each time someone stumbled, she grew a little more confident, not from her own success, but by comparing herself to those who were suffering. She didn't offer help. She didn't empathize. Instead, she magnified their failures, sometimes with subtle comments, sometimes with exaggerated retellings, all for one reason, to make herself look superior. Seneca once said, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity." And for these individuals, adversity is not a teacher, it's a tool. They don't overcome it. They use it when it's not theirs. They gossip. They sabotage. They spread half-truths to weaken others and feed their fragile ego. Their joy doesn't stem from achievement. It comes from watching others fall just low enough to make themselves feel tall. And at the root of it all, insecurity. Deep, persistent, and unacknowledged. Because truly fulfilled people don't need others to suffer to feel whole. But these individuals, they do. Their sense of worth is built not on inner strength, but on the broken pieces of other people's dignity. And the worst part, that satisfaction they feel, it's always temporary. Because no matter how many people they tear down, they're still left with the same emptiness inside. So how do we protect ourselves from this energy? Stoic philosophy teaches us that the key is to safeguard our self-worth, to never allow the behavior of others to make us question our own value. When you notice someone showing enjoyment in another's pain, when you sense that they focus more on failure than support. When they keep score, not to help but to gloat, step away, because every moment spent near them chips away at your peace. And your peace is sacred. Instead, surround yourself with people who celebrate your growth, who don't envy your light, but reflect it. These are the people who uplift you, not because they need something in return, but because they believe in the shared joy of genuine connection. As the Stoics would say, true contentment isn't built on the collapse of others. It's found in shared success, mutual respect, and the kind of encouragement that helps everyone rise. Sign number 8. Isolation as a weapon now. Once they sense they can't diminish your self-worth through mockery or control, they try something even more calculated. They separate you from your strength. Marcus Aurelius once reminded us, human beings were born for cooperation. Our strength lies in unity, shared experiences, and the bonds we form. But for malicious individuals, that natural bond we're meant to share is the very thing they seek to dismantle. One of their most dangerous tactics? Isolation. They know that when you're connected to your support system, your friends, your family, your community, you're stronger, more grounded, harder to manipulate. So what do? They slowly chip away at those connections, not with open attacks, but with subtle seeds of doubt. I once had a friend who, at first, seemed genuine and thoughtful. She listened closely when I talked about the people I cared about, and slowly, she began to insert doubt. Comments like, "Your best friend doesn't really treat you that well, does she? Have you noticed how your brother always talks over you? I just don't think they get you the way I do." At first it seemed like concern, like she was just looking out for me. But over time the pattern became clear. The goal wasn't support, it was separation. Because when you're isolated, you're vulnerable. And when you're vulnerable, you're easier to control. This tactic is insidious because it can look like love, like protectiveness, like deep understanding. But it's not. It's a quiet strategy to cut you off from every source of strength, until they're all you have left. And once you're emotionally dependent on them, they hold the power. Stoicism urges us to protect not just our peace, but our communities. We are not meant to stand alone, and anyone who tries to cut us off from love, encouragement, and healthy connection isn't doing it for our benefit. They're doing it to weaken us, so stay vigilant. If someone constantly criticizes the people you love, if they frame themselves as the only one who truly gets you, if they make you feel guilty for spending time with others, pause. Ask yourself, is this helping me grow, or is it shrinking my world? Because real friends don't isolate you. They expand you. They cheer for your circle, not compete with it. They want to be part of your life, not become your life. It started with quiet comments, subtle, almost caring, but over time those words worked like invisible threads, pulling me away from the very people who had always held me up. She would say things like, "Your family doesn't understand you the way I do," or, "You know, your best friend seems jealous of your progress." At first I didn't think much of it. I brushed off those remarks, thinking she was simply trying to look out for me, being protective, maybe even loyal. But those comments didn't stop. They became more frequent, more precise, and slowly a strange feeling crept in. Doubt. Doubt about the people I had once trusted with everything. Doubt about their intentions. Doubt about their ability to really be there for me. Without realizing it, I had started distancing myself from the relationships that had always been my core, my foundation, my true support system. And her approach? It was gentle, almost loving, but it was also calculated, designed to make me feel like she was the only one who truly understood me, the only one I could count on. This tactic wasn't coincidence, it was deliberate. a subtle form of psychological control used by toxic individuals to sow insecurity and dependency. The more alone you feel, the more power they gain, because once you're isolated, your ability to think clearly, to feel strong, to seek second opinions, all begins to fade. They become your only voice. And from there, it's easy for them to manipulate how you see yourself and the world around you. But here's what they don't want you to realize. True strength comes from connection, from real, healthy, grounded relationships. Unity isn't a weakness. It's the foundation of resilience. If you begin to notice a growing sense of loneliness, a disconnection from your loved ones, or a creeping suspicion that maybe they don't care as much as I thought, pause, reflect, reevaluate, ask yourself, has this person encouraged me to stay close to those I love or pushed me away from them? Trust your instincts, and don't hesitate to reach back out to the people who've always been there for you, your friends, your family, those who love you not for your usefulness but for who you are. They are your compass, your grounding force. Even when life feels unsteady, they are often the voice of reason that pulls you back to truth. Stoic philosophy reminds us that we are not meant to live in isolation. We are social beings, part of something bigger. And in that shared connection, in those authentic relationships, we find our truest strength. So don't let anyone convince you otherwise. Protect your connections, because when you do, you protect your power. And no manipulator can thrive where love and clarity are firmly rooted. Sign number 9. Jealousy in disguise, but not every attack comes in the form of control or isolation. Sometimes, it's cloaked in something even harder to detect: concern, or worse, false encouragement. Envy is one of the most toxic emotions, but when it's disguised as goodwill, it becomes even more dangerous. Seneca once said, "Envy is the ulcer of the soul," and those who carry envy often do so in silence, masked by smiles, framed as compliments or tucked into friendly advice. They don't tear you down directly. Instead, they chip away at your confidence, one disguised comment at a time. I once had a friend who always appeared to be supportive. She asked about my projects, checked in often, and seemed genuinely invested in my progress. Then came a big moment. I completed a project I was incredibly proud of. I was excited, relieved, and ready to celebrate. She smiled and said, "That's great, but next time maybe push yourself a little harder. You could take it to the next level." At first I nodded, thinking it was helpful feedback. But later that night something didn't sit right: her tone, her timing, her expression. It wasn't encouragement, it was a subtle cut, not meant to lift me higher, but to diminish what I had already achieved. And it wasn't the first time. What seemed like harmless feedback was in reality a pattern. Always a but, always a gentle reminder that what I had done wasn't quite enough. Envious individuals won't attack your success outright. They'll offer half praise, laced with comparison. They'll say things like, "That's amazing, but I heard someone else did it better," or "You did great, but don't get too confident." There's still a long way to go. These aren't acts of kindness. They're strategies designed to keep you from celebrating your own growth, because your joy shines a light on something they don't want to face: their own unhealed wounds. Your success triggers their insecurity. Your confidence becomes a threat. And instead of working on themselves, they try to shrink you. The Stoic response? See it clearly. Don't lash out, don't retaliate. Simply recognize it for what it is: insecurity, wearing a mask. And then, protect your peace. You don't need validation from those who can't celebrate with you. And you don't need to defend your light to those who fear it. You're not too much, you're simply growing, and they've chosen to stay small. so let them. You keep rising. Stoic philosophy teaches us not only to observe others, but to trust ourselves. And when something feels off, even in the sweetest of words, it's worth looking deeper. If a compliment makes you shrink instead of stand taller, ask yourself, is this encouragement or control? Because truly kind people want to see you rise. They don't fear your growth, they celebrate it. They offer praise that's wholehearted and push you to explore new heights with confidence. Jealous individuals, in contrast, use words not to uplift, but to unsettle. They plant seeds of uncertainty. They disguise envy as advice, and when you shine a little too brightly, they dim the light just enough to make you question your glow. To protect yourself, draw firm boundaries. Don't shrink for the comfort of those who can't handle your light, and never let someone else's insecurity rewrite the story of your worth. Surround yourself with people who love to see you succeed, those who clap when you win, those who don't need you to be small so they can feel big, because you're light. It was never meant to flicker, it was meant to burn bright. Sign Dahan 10, the unrepentant heart. Now we come to one of the clearest signs of an evil person, one that cannot be ignored or excused, a heart that refuses to repent. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Stop arguing about what a good person should be and just be one." But evil individuals, they do the opposite. They talk endlessly about fairness, goodness, or loyalty, yet show none of it in action. They hold on to destructive patterns. They hurt others and feel no remorse. And when consequences come, they deny, deflect, and justify. You've likely met someone like this. No matter how clear the damage, they always have an excuse. They didn't mean it. You misunderstood. You're too sensitive. Or worse, everyone else does worse things. Even when you try to have an honest conversation, to help them see the harm, to heal the rift, they twist it around. They make you the problem. And here's the most dangerous part. They don't want to grow. They don't believe change is needed. In their world, stubbornness is strength, and self-reflection is weakness. This mindset is the complete opposite of Stoic wisdom, because to the Stoic, courage lies in facing oneself, in owning mistakes, in making things right, not for others, only but as a commitment to integrity. Those with unrepentant hearts reject that path. They stay trapped in their ego, and they hurt others again and again. Without ever looking inward, if someone in your life refuses to admit fault, never takes responsibility, and constantly finds ways to blame others, step back. Not everyone is ready to grow. Not everyone deserves access to your energy. Instead, invest in those who have the courage to confront their flaws. People who rise not by pushing others down, but by rising with them. People who value maturity more than comfort. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the quality of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts and the people you allow into them. So choose wisely and honor your peace. Final reflection. So now we've walked through 10 evident signs that an evil person might be closer than you think. Some of them wear masks, some are loud, many are quiet. But all of them, if left unrecognized, can drain your peace and destabilize your life. But here's the good news. Awareness is power. The moment you learn to see the signs, you reclaim your clarity. You protect your mind, your energy, your boundaries. Stoic philosophy teaches that strength isn't in force, it's in discipline. It's in choosing how you respond. It's in guarding your mind as the sacred space it is. Don't let toxic individuals take up space in your thoughts. Don't let their chaos enter your calm. Stand firm, set your boundaries, and keep showing up as the highest version of yourself. Because you're light, that's what they fear the most. If this video resonated with you, and you found value in these insights, hit that like button to let others know this message matters. Subscribe to Stoic Havenway and turn on the bell so you never miss a lesson rooted in ancient wisdom and modern strength. And comment below, I see the signs. Let the world know that you're awake, aware, and protecting your peace. Thank you for watching. Stay grounded, stay strong, and I'll see you in the next video where your inner wisdom will continue to rise.